나의 영혼 A whole new type So 뿌리 깊은 나무 샘이 깊은 묵음이가 바로 날 깨웠던 새뿌리야 We'll never ever give up forever I say it again We'll always be a light to move us I'll tell you again We'll never ever give up forever I say it again We'll always be a light to move us And if you are on occasion And neither are you an angel
My mic was muted. Hello. How is everybody? Happy Saturday. Live K-Talk it is. Hello, Mandy from New Jersey. I'm like, who's here? Say hello. So I don't feel by myself. Thanks for joining. So I always like to start with some updates. What's going on. So this will be officially my last show forever. No, I'm kidding. It will be the last show in the USA for a while. Hi, Sophie. Do you see my face lit up when I know these people? I know a lot of names to faces because I've met so many of you. That's why the tours are so important and the book talks were so important. And I know, oh my goodness, Joanne from LA. That's early. Thanks for joining Saturday morning. Linda, hello. Linda, where are you from? Because I see you quite a bit too. Where are you located? And so I want to say this will be the last time. The next show I'm going to talk about will be in mid-March and it'll be from Korea. And I'll talk about that because that's a special show for tour folks. I have to do some show and tell. So you guys already see me talk about this, but when we were featured in the New York Times, which is super cool, and they came out to take photos of our October tour, I didn't even think that a lot of folks would see the news from the New York Times story in local papers. And I'm hearing about it off and on. Now, 2 people from Hawaii, that's so cool that they sent this from Hawaii, sent me the Hawaiian version. And I just wanted to show it in real life on YouTube because I'm really proud. It's kind of cool that, and of course, these people on the front just coincidentally happened to be from Hawaii too. And so this was a front cover and then us visiting Extraordinary Attorney Woo's Kimbap place, which is still on our itinerary. And then the whole story written by the writer. So I had to show this as a show and tell because, again, this is the New York Times article that I guess local outlets have picked up. So I know that it was in Orlando. I believe it was somewhere in the Midwest. So if you have any clippings, I would love them because I keep them and someday I'll laminate them into like something special because it's special. Okay, here's another show and tell. Someone sent me this postcard. It is so cool. When the phone rings, I mean, isn't that cool when you get postcards? And I just have to read one part of her letter because it's so funny. Did you enjoy When the Phone Rings? I really enjoyed it until the second half of episode 11. Episode 11.5 to 12 are dead to me. I cracked up silly. I think that's so funny because you remember episode 11 and 12 getting a little wonky, right, with things. And we all agree on that, even though we still enjoyed the drama. But the reason why I think this is special is I get to hear from you guys, and it's really special to get handwritten notes. I love it. I mean, oh my gosh, that's the generation I grew up with, right? When we actually wrote notes and mail and sent the mail and stuff like that. So that was funny. Thanks for the laugh. 11.5 to 12 episode being dead to you. I totally get it. Hi, Kim. Hi. Oh, the date. The New York Times date, you'll probably be more apt to see it online. It was December 24th. It was Christmas Eve. So some people missed it because it was holiday season. But it's a beautifully written essay by the writer that you were with, Zoe, and super sweet. And just, I didn't realize how much she was processing during the tour. And Nancy, oh yeah, I bet it's snowy. We just have not even rain. We just have a dreary looking day. I would love snow because I love snow. Okay, so I have to show something else. This is my final show and tell. Isn't this okay? So you guys on my tours, we talk about turtles. Those who are coming on my tours, Those who are coming on my tours, you will hear more about turtles. But I just have to show these off, okay? And I was saving it. Look at these beautiful coasters that I got from somebody who turned our word graphic, because I shared all your words of the year, into beautiful coasters. Okay, look at that. And it's not just like one or two. I'm talking like a bazillion coasters. I think I have 12 coasters How cute is this? And it came a few days before my birthday. And I don't know if they knew it was my birthday, but I thought it was so lovely. So I had to show you these coasters. But that's not all. Okay. The person turned it into a cutting board. I'm sorry, I'm showing this off. I'm not going to use it as a cutting board. And I'm actually hemming and hawing, considering taking this to Korea because I need more personal things when I'm in Korea. But look how gorgeous this is. Again, our turtle graphic with all your words, as many of your words, and the logo into a cutting board. Thank you. If you're watching this, thank you so much. It's one of the best gifts I've ever received. So thoughtful and so special. And so this is what it looks like. And I'm probably going to take it to Korea. It's just going to hang somewhere. So those are the show and tells. I just got to show and tell, right? Then here's some updates. The minute I arrive, we leave for Korea in 3 days. No, 2 days, 2.5 days. Yeah. It has crept up on me. This is the earliest we've gone, and this is the longest we will stay. I think this is me being honest. It's so great being there, but I still live between two worlds, right? The USA and Korea on Korea time, but working on USA time. It's like 50% of the time, and then family in the US. So our attention's quite a bit shifted. When we're there, we're fully present, especially on tours, of course. But this time around, I'm a little bit more, I would say, stressed leaving because there's so much to do here with family, and then so much to do when we arrive. So the minute I land, we land, we separate. Like hubby heads over to another city for tourism and our tour strategy meeting. Yeah, good luck to him. I'm not doing that. I'm doing something fun. I'm going to a global women's conference and speaking. But it's fun, but I just realized it's also going to be taxing because I will be jet lagged and speaking on the stage 5 times. So that's a lot, for a specific conference. And I knew that going into it, but I know, right? The beautiful turtle on the wood. So I think I do that within 24 hours, 24 and a half hours, I'll be at the conference. And that's the first time I've done that where I gave very little leeway, but we try to leave as late as we could. And so I'll be speaking, very excited. A women's conference. I mean, come on. When you're with women, and now this is a leadership conference, so not necessarily Korean culture, people from the UK, I think I saw US everywhere, me. And I think I'm only one of 2 Korean persons speaking. And so when I suggested my keynote, they were like, definitely. I was like, hello, I'm gonna talk about how K-dramas transform your life. And I will really frame it to leadership, but I don't need to do that because it's a keynote. So that's my keynote on Korean, just my work and my own story. The part of the TEDx that you guys saw, I'll be sharing a little bit of that. And then, of course, I have 4 clips. And I'm thinking I have 30 minutes. I got to cut down those clips because the clips can take a while as we talk about it. And then my workshops will be on specifically leadership and specifically bringing Jung, the Korean, the very special Korean connection, experience, emotional sentiment, all that stuff to leadership for teams and team building. And I will share a workshop on that. That's pretty much brand new content. So I was having fun. That was what I was working on, like one of the workshops. So that's huge for me. And I'm excited. And it's the first time I'm speaking at this conference. It's actually the first time this conference is in Seoul, South Korea. So very proud. So that's when I come. And then after that, we'll be doing a bunch of other stuff. So that's next week. So we'll be in Korea in like a few days. Wow, crazy. And I heard it's frigid. Everyone's like, it's freezing here. And I'm thinking, we've been through freezing before, but I think it's actually another level of cold, very cold this year. Another update is a week after I arrive, I go to the J-Hope concert. I'm sorry if you have FOMO. I don't mean to brag, but I'm only bragging because I'm going to the first night, got tickets to the first night. Do you know what it's like to get tickets to K-pop concerts in Korea? Okay. It's stressful. I'm sure you've seen videos out there. Someday I will do one, but I'm so intense. I don't even want to film myself doing it. Like you're dripping with sweat. My husband's on the thing too. We're on 2, 3, 4 different devices plus our phone to get tickets. And then we're talking about J-Hope and we're talking about BTS. I don't even want to think about what's going to happen with BTS. But in Korea, they're limited. They only limit you to 1 ticket. So we both had to buy. You also obviously have to be a fan club member and all that stuff. That stuff's easy. And, making sure you're prepped. But you know what's hard? The cost is so awesome in Korea. It's for J-Hope's VIP meet and greet. I'm in a meet and greet. I get to meet him, or probably not one-on-one. We can't have a conversation, but I'll be part of that. Really good standing on the floor. That in itself was like $150 USD. I mean, hello. I mean, I heard some of you guys in LA, and so people were like texting me the faces. I mean, the prices on Ticketmaster. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy expensive. And another thing about me, I realize is I don't go to a lot of K-pop concerts. A lot of people are like, did you go to this? I'm like, no. They're like, but you love them. I go, I know, but I don't, because first of all, they're depending on where it is. If I can't make time for it, I can't make time for it. And then two, I don't know. It's just one of those things as an extrovert, I can get overwhelmed at a concert. J-Hope, BTS, all worth it, especially the cost in Korea. But you literally, I think I woke up, I mean, it's not even that early, but I made sure I was up at like 5 a.m. East Coast time to make sure that I was ready to log in. And I'm sharing this with you because the cost of a K-pop concert in Korea is like very, 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 very reasonable. And so I'm super excited about that. And I'll go to that when I arrive. It's my first K-pop concert in Korea, actually. So, and again, there are many. I think there's many that I want to go to. I take a look at like the tickets, how cheap it is, and know that it'll take like a lot of manpower emotionally to try to get those tickets because it's really hard. Just ask any foreigner. Korean citizens maybe a little easier, but not so much. I mean, it's like people say it sells out in like 1 minute. It really does. So sharing about that. And then, okay. Oh my gosh, I have a huge update. Nancy, are you going to go to J-Hope in Chicago? Oh, thank you for the reminder. So I love that my tour groups, 8 tour groups, I want to say almost all of them are somehow, at least 2 or 3 people are meeting up in different cities to go to J-Hope. And also, I think aespa, Stray Kids. Okay, wait, maybe that was it Stray Kids, ATEEZ last year. I love that. So if I wasn't going to J-Hope in Seoul, I would feel major FOMO because I know some people are going to San Antonio, Texas. You guys are in Chicago. I know folks meeting up in New York and going to both in LA, New York and LA. I think that's so cool. But I'm only a little bit of FOMO because I'll be going in Seoul first. So I'm super excited. But thank you for sharing. Oh, you're also going to, oh my goodness, that's so cool. Yeah, Nancy became a pro tickets. You know what? Ticketmaster is so much better. I'd rather spend more money and not deal with the craziness of Korea of getting tickets. It's just hard. You know, it's like a whole activity. I think we spend 12 hours thinking, okay, in 12 hours, we got to get these tickets in Korea. I'm sure we thought about that in the US. Then my other update is by the end of the month, when I'm in Korea, we will unveil our new website. And I don't think I talked about it because that was a whole nother, not stress because I have such a great team behind it, but just a whole nother like level of, oh my goodness, we are, really making this a huger, bigger project. And so we will be unveiling a new Nuna's Nuchi website. That's going to be, I would say, interactive. So stay tuned. And that's going to be unveiled by the end of the month, and I'll start showing stuff and you'll see what I mean without me sharing so much, but it's going to have a lot to do with K-dramas and K-pop. Just saying, it's going to be so cool. I'm so excited. CJ is, okay, you guys, okay, now let's see who's going, okay. A BTS concert tour, Jeannie. Yes, hello. I think I spoke to many of you that I'm trying to get like box seats, like LA, New York. You have to pay ahead of time. So it's like a chunk of money, but I'll do it knowing that you guys would like come together and we'd be in box seats. Hello. CJ and Yolanda meeting in Texas. Oh, so is a lot of tour groups. You guys all have to, oh my goodness. J-Hope concert with Susan. You guys, can we screenshot this? Everybody getting together post-tour for whether it's BTS or Stray Kids and I know ATEEZ. And then, yeah, that's so cool, guys. Like it almost makes me emotional. Think you guys all get together. When is the Oakland tour? I just remember I couldn't make any of the US states because I'm in Asia. So I could possibly make another, I think, Asia date for J-Hope if I can make time. So stay tuned on that. Yay, say hi to everybody. So my website, and I think that's it. Oh, 2025 tours. If you're in the March tour, anybody here from the March tour saw an itinerary, they may see some things on there that we have not shown because we didn't do it. So I want to say one of the other stressors, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just let it go. I always seek for new experiences for each tour, or especially specifically each tour year and UK dramas. So I'm like, we have to add Love Scout. Sorry, that was like no brainer. I went to the tour guide. I was like, listen, we are adding Love Scout. How are we going to make this happen? And so that's incorporated. So is some new things on day one. day 2. And I say new things, I don't mean new sites. I mean experiences. You shall see soon because the April tour folks didn't get their itinerary, so I don't want to reveal it. But you shall see by March 19th what we'll be doing. And these are new experiences, Korean culturally related, also some army related and drama stuff. I'm so excited. And I'm sharing this with you because some of these experiences, I'm going to be very clear, are for seasonal only. So, for instance, the spring tours will get some things that honestly the fall tour cannot get because it's only available in the spring and vice versa. So, that's how we're going to do it. And hopefully, no one feels FOMO, but just know that we custom curate the tours and I add a little bit of stress for myself because it's what I want, meaning I want me to experience this with you guys. I'm like, we're going to this. And it's only available till end of April, right? We're going to go to this and it's only available in September. So that's the kind of stuff we do. So I'm excited. And 2026, can't believe it. Yes, we're getting our act together because we're growing. We are already planning 2026 tours, including some reunion tours. I've said this before, but I'm talking legit. Like we have dates and they'll be announced. We just have to figure out when because I need to get through some spring tours first. But we'll be announcing them fairly soon. And this is why I'm going to conclude. Mailing list. So we're going to give you a QR code. I need you to join this mailing list. I think many of you are already on it, especially if you were on the previous tours. But this is, and I really mean this is not just a mailing list that we're going to send you like, info on whatever. It's also going to be building part of the community that I'm talking about with the new website stuff. I'm like trying to refrain from sharing too much because, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. But this is all part of that. And it's very interactive. So you guys are getting together for concerts. We're going to figure out a different way to make it even easier to get together for concerts, even cross tours. Even if you haven't met people like Zoe from my October 2023 tour, and then you want to meet someone from the October 2024 tour, there's a way to do that. And so please sign up when you can. And sorry for the FOMO. Yeah. But I feel it too. So we're in this together. I feel it every time you guys are like, guess what? Here's a photo of us together. Yes, Zoe, the October tour has some previous tour peeps, not from your tour per se, but I think you need to go. Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, that's why I'm a little overwhelmed because we're doing 2 brand new tours, Jeju and Magic Shop, and they're brand new. Okay. So it's like, we have the itinerary. We have our tour guides who went through everything. And I remember they were DMing me last week. They're like, okay, so we got to switch this location. I'm like, oh my gosh, so much going on. So lastly, to give you more FOMO, guess how many people are coming back to my tours this year? 11 tour people from 2024 are coming back in 2025. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's something to brag about. Because every time I see a return tour person, it really means a lot. And then we have a 3-time tour person. I mean, how special is that? Maybe other tour owners or whatever, tour operators can say that, but I don't think so. Like 11, it's not like my tours are just like a, drop in the hat. I mean, it's an investment, right? And so thank you for the 11 returning tour people. I feel like we're going to see more, but that is a statistic I actually tend to share a lot because I'm really proud of it. Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. I'm excited to. I'm like, can you see? I'm like trying to figure out what do I share and not spoiler alert. But I can't wait to meet you on the April tour. Yeah, save up. I think I can tell you this now that the price for 2026 will be the same as 2025. Yeah. Okay, now let's go on to the bazillion questions. Let's first go on to the K-drama deep dive that I'm not going to do. I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to do one because I couldn't think of one. Love Scout, I think we've talked about because we've done the watch parties. And I'm watching, these are the ones I'm watching. Study Group, it's on Viki. When the Stars Gossip, I'm a couple episodes behind. That's on Netflix. I just started Mellow Movie. That was last night. Super cute. They all dropped, so I have to catch up on that. Only watched a couple. And then I'm waiting for When Life Gives You Tangerines, that's based in Jeju with IU and Park Bo-gum in March. But those are the ones I'm watching. And it's because they're current that I don't feel like deep diving too much. Study Group is interestingly not quite my type, but I'm like drawn to it. So is my husband. We're both like, something about it is very quirkily funny. Is quirkily even a word? Quirky and funny The graphic fight scenes are actually very choreographed, a little bit graphic. I'm like, okay, but it's based on the webtoon, right? So you kind of have to ignore some of that and some of the outrageous scenarios of high schoolers fighting like they're, and they even make reference to Bruce Lee, which I also think is funny. But as many of you said, and I agree with, it's heartwarming and uplifting. And the I would say the underlining message of the study group, which is actually also funny, is very endearing and poignant. So that's what keeps us watching. And we do laugh out loud, literally LOL watching it, because there's just some funny comic, not even one-liners. The way they're filming it is really funny, and the actors are super cute. So that's the largest deep dive I want to do. When the Stars Gossip, still trying to figure it out, even though it's almost done. I don't think it got blasted in Korea. I understand why. So let me explain why. Still overall, even with a younger audience, Koreans are still, they want the stuff that you guys fell in love with, the traditional family oriented ones. If it's a little bit too progressive, they'll say something. And I think that's kind of what it is. And it's not like it's so progressive for US or Western tastes, but it is for a K-drama, right? And some of the concepts are still a little bit out there. So that's probably why. I also think I love the actors. Kong Hyo-jin is one of my favorite. She's great at it individually, but I don't quite see the chemistry. And so the Koreans are so big on chemi. They're like chemi 없어. So when they're like, there's no chemistry, I see their point. And so Koreans are really into that. So actually Koreans are very romantic in that sense. They're like, where's the chemistry? Where's like that passion? And that's what I think is being criticized. But otherwise, I'm still watching because I'm intrigued and I love them. And that's why I'm watching it. Yes, study group. Okay, wait. Oh, yes, Carrie's coming in September. Motel. Okay, you know what? Motel California, I didn't start. Why didn't I start it? Probably because now I'm really behind and I have to catch up. But no, it does look cute. And I do specifically love the actress in that one. So that's my deep dive on that. But let me go through the questions because I got so many good questions on relationships. So I titled this What's Good for Your Heart? It's in the US, it's American Heart Month, US Heart Month, American Heart Association promoting this as Heart Health Month. So it's common sense that your relationships would be good for your heart, good relationships. So I thought, let me play on that. The first question is, are K-drama men too good to be true? There was an article that I posted yesterday that I was quoted in, and you know, like when I'm quoted, it's up to them what they take, right? Because they record it and all this stuff. And I do like how it was quoted. I'll be honest, sometimes I don't like how it was quoted. I sometimes understand what celebrities go through when they're like, wait, this was taken out of context. I'm like, I said this, but I said so much more, right? But I did like that because I think what she emphasized was what my whole point is. If we get too stuck on people being too good to be true, then that's how we're going to see things like, oh, like let's just say I meet a new friend like Kim, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're too good to be true. You're not real. Then how cynical is that? Looking at people that way because they're doing nice things for you or being nice or being kind. I see that a lot in real life, and we do err toward the cynical. We are cynics by nature, right? And we tend to look at things negatively. So it takes a lot of work to go, this person is making me feel really good and they're so sweet. I'm going to take it at face value and really give them the benefit of the doubt and get to know them. Now, that's not to say that people hurt you and are manipulative. Yes, that's totally the case. But for K-drama men, too good to be true. If they were too good to be true, meaning completely out there, which some of we see happen, which is why When the Stars Gossip isn't doing well, they're like, what's with the whole space thing? Even if there's factual things to it, they're like, this is so out there, I don't like it. Then I'm going to tell you now, you're not going to like K-dramas that much. You'd be like, what's with the guys? They're not real. I can't watch something like this because it's that outrageous. So something's holding us there because what we see within the men, like a guy who wants to be a good father, the most latest guy, Love Scout, he was a really, really popular employee, good to his boss, the CEO, obviously fell in love with her and all this stuff. But that's all legit. So I always tell people, look at like who they are and their characteristics. Them being a perfect single dad, there's no such thing, obviously. And we're seeing like the good parts of it. So obviously there's nothing perfect to anything. But the fact that he's a cook and trying to cook for his daughter, all that made sense. I'm like, well, who else is going to cook? He has to learn how to cook. So I always tell people, look at all that. And then just know that the scenarios that outline it, you know, I don't know, 3-piece suits and Ferraris and what are those other cars that we see? These really luxurious cars, maybe That's not realistic. Yeah. And so I always say we get confused with all the material things that we see, but we really see good traits in these men, which is why you like them. And vice versa with the women, empowered women, women making these tough choices that we saw even with Love Scout yesterday. So all of that, I want to say, it's not too good to be true. They exist. We just have to put things in perspective. And I always say temper your expectations. So I think that's the next question. Let me go to the next question. So my answer to that easy question is no, they're not too good to be true. That's my answer. How can viewers enjoy the idealized romance without setting unrealistic expectations? I mean, I think in reality, I think there'll be times we have unrealistic expectations. Like not even if you're not in a relationship, we have unrealistic expectations everywhere, whether it's a colleague, your friend. And also I find that these unrealistic expectations become that way because they're unspoken, meaning if you expect someone to read your mind, like, hello, I mean, if for those of you who've been married a long time, ain't no way your spouse is going to read your mind, right? There are times I'm like, hello, you should have known this. And then they're like, how's I supposed to know that? I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should have told you. So a lot of these unrealistic versus realistic expectations are not said out loud. So if you want them to be reality, then say it going, I really want you to, when I ask you a question, like you do drop your phone to answer. I mean, however you want to temper that and say this, I think it's fine to give your realistic expectations. Now, when I say unrealistic, this would be something like you see in the K-dramas, expecting some of the outlandish stuff. Maybe that's unrealistic, but I also am cautious way I answer this because I think I see a lot of things that are realistic, except the scenarios. So just take out the storyboard scenarios, but everything else that they do, to being kind, to being vulnerable and crying. I see that in real life. I mean, maybe because I also see them in therapy sessions, but they exist in real life. So that is all true. Just if they're unrealistic, who's telling you they're unrealistic? That's what I was going to say too. Are people going, that is so unrealistic? Also, be wary of who's telling you that, because your expectations are based on what you want. So be careful about separating the outside voices to your own inner voice of like, you know what, this is really what I want. I know these friends say, oh my goodness, you're living in la la land. There's no way that exists. Kind of, balance that. Yes, your friends are your friends. They mean well, and they're there for you, especially people you really trust. But also know, you know what's best, or you know what you want. So you have to, and I always ask that in a question to somebody. And sometimes I always get that. I'll say, hey, so what do you want? Or do you even know what makes you happy? Do you know many times people are like, I kid you not. So know that. What makes you happy? Or like, what do you find attractive? If you're looking for a partner. So that's super important. And I guess my last emphasis is not always to listen to others defining your realistic expectations. You should say what you should deserve the best. I always say that. And maybe it's me being obnoxious, but I'm like, hello, I think I deserve the best. So I think that's super important. Okay, let's go to the next question. Which one? How do K-dramas explore emotional vulnerability and healing in romantic relationships? They do it so well. In fact, I think that's where we see such good examples of it that we might not see that in real life. You know why you don't see that in real life? And this is not being unrealistic, realistic. Everybody, it's hard to be vulnerable and show everything. This is why I love K-dramas. So let's just say, let's give a romantic example. Somebody, this is a typical scenario, a guy in a K-drama pretending not to like the girl, or vice versa. And they're all harsh and mean, and like sometimes too mean. And you're like, oh my gosh, as viewers, we're like, we know you like this person. Why can't you say it? So let's translate that to real life. Well, in the K-dramas, you can see the actor or the character behind the scenes. So after they're mean to the person they like, you see them upset about it, or being like, oh, I love her so much, or I love him so much, I don't know how to share it, right? I think that's so cool. Let's translate that to real life. It's really hard to show such emotional vulnerability, especially if you like somebody. You can get hurt. I think that's the typical thing early on in relationships or getting to know people, getting hurt. Maybe you've been hurt before. Maybe there's a divorce in your past and you can't move on. All that is all very much part of your identity. So I think it's really important that we look at these K-dramas and go, you know what? This person is acting this way to me, but maybe, and then pretend the other side of the scenario, this person actually means this, because you see it from a K-drama. I use this with families when a mom lashes out at their child, and then you see that next scene where the mom is crying. I do this a lot. I say this a lot. I go, Can you believe that might be the scenario, but you just don't see that? And then we're the same way. Like, I know that I might say one thing, but then behind the back, you know how you're like, oh my God, why did I say that? I didn't mean that. Or, oh my goodness, that was so harsh. And then you feel bad about it. That's human nature. So that is why I love the K dramas. So if you want to find that healing romantic relationship, first think of a K drama example. If I come to you and say, oh, you want this? Oh, can you give me an example of a K drama? Usually I get asked that question, but I also flip it on you going, do you have an example that of a somebody you watch that you're like, I love this character and I want to emulate or have a relationship like this? Be able to answer that, because you got to know what you want. Because I give examples all the time that people be like, no, and I'll be like, okay, then what do you want? Right? Everyone will be like, can you offer something for grief? I'm like, well, how are you grieving? What, people, it's all different. So I'm going to ask you, if there's some example and you want to DM me saying, this is an example, let's talk about it, then we could discuss that. Right. And so they do a good job is what I'm saying. They do an excellent job. We see all scenarios in the K dramas, which is why we love them and why it's so complex. Okay. The next one, I think it was something, there's a parent one coming. Oh, why is parental approval such a significant theme in K-drama relationships? Because it's a core value in the Korean society, in Asian culture, not just Korean culture. It is something, and I've referred this before, it's all in all my workshops, filial piety. This is a Confucian term, but it holds steady in the Korean culture. So of course you're going to see it in the dramas. Filial piety refers to literally serving the obligatory obligations, feeling such I would say, gratitude and feeling a debt to your family, filial family. Piety, like that respect, the respect for elders. What your parents say rings very, 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 like, not just heavy, but it's almost like sometimes their word is what guides you. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just that's the culture that is a core value and one of the tenets in Confucianism. So filial piety, that's why we see it. Filial piety also means bringing pride and joy to your family. So not shaming them. That can be very much of, I would say, a thing that I work with a lot. It's a lot of pressure. It does a number on one's well-being of feeling like they have failed their family. And you see it a lot in the culture. You see it in the dramas where they're like, I'm ashamed, I'm going to do something to myself and not live in this society more because I shamed my family. That is so true, all of that. So that is why it's super important why you see it's about the family. And so it's super important to understand it's not wrong or bad or good. It can be a very difficult stressor in the family or into someone's individual life. It was for mine as well. Like the pressure of, you guys love my husband, right? Yeah, he was not very well liked in our family. And I think I share this a lot. More had to do with what he brought to the table, social class, all that stuff. Obviously, as they got to know him, it completely switched. And that's the hope. But the initial core value was, does he have this? Does he have this? Does he have this? Is he doing this? Is he doing? And I was like, oh my gosh. And so again, even me to this day about parental, how do I want to say, it's like so much always having their, what's the word? Acceptance. No, not acceptance. It's not always having their approval. Sorry. Because there are times, I'm 51 now. I will do things the way I want to do it. But societally, when I'm in Korea and even here, especially amongst my Korean American community and family, that family and parental pressure is like right there. Like we all talk about it. It's a joke in our like coffee talks. We're like, yeah, remember when our parents said this? Remember when we were supposed to be lawyers? It's there. And that's why you see that. And I don't think that'll ever change because that is rooted in culture. But what's changing is how families are addressing it. Like the younger folks are being like, mom, dad, can you get better at this? Now my kids are like, yeah, that is not good for my mental health. I mean, they'll throw that in my face and it's kind of funny, but I like it because I never could say that to my parents saying, by the way, this is stressful. No, I could never say that. Now my kids can, a little too much. They're like, yeah, this is depressing. You're stressing me out. I welcome it because that's showing our different relationship. They still feel the pressure from me. So the mom, we're still parents, but it's also their response to me and how I'm shifting too. And so that's part of what I'm seeing happen in our current immigrant society, amongst the bicultural society, right? The Asian American, Chinese American, Taiwanese American, all that, Korean American, we're all shifting in that direction, which is great. It all has to be communication And then Korean society also shifting. And then the K-dramas are helping with that too. People seeing a K-drama going, oh my goodness, I really like the way the mom talked to her son about this. Or I really like the way the single dad addressed the situation. He was disappointed, but he allowed the student to make a mistake. That kind of thing, all in the K-dramas. So there's a reason why the writers are writing this. It's all for some societal change. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Hopefully I'm answering this. These are good questions. You're making me like really use my brain. What are some healthy ways to handle disagreements without damaging the relationship? First of all, I will say this, because I'm trying to think about this. Culturally, Koreans can be conflict averse, but then actually, never mind. All of us are. Like, who wants a conflict? Who wants to disagree? But there will be disagreements. And just because you disagree doesn't mean it automatically damages the relationship. I'll actually see that too. I'll be like, what do you mean? Like, did you even talk about the fact that, okay, here's a very contentious example, politics. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to use that example. Many families differ on political views. And I don't say to someone going, by the way, convince your parent that this is the right way to go. I don't say that. I have my own opinions, but I hold that going, well, this is what your parents believe and this is what you believe. How are you going to come to some sort of compromise? Because you can't change someone's mind. I swear it'd be great if one day we discovered how to do that. Maybe that's the AI. I hope that never happens. We're also normal. AI is great, but I was being sarcastic. You are not there to change someone's mind. In that disagreement, you are disagreeing. And you know how they say, fine, we'll agree to disagree. That's actually sarcastic too. But I've actually seen when people mean it, they go, fine, you're going to be here politically. I'm going to be here politically. But we can still be a family. There's just ways around it. And I see it. I see some great relationships, political spectrums, or even core value spectrums on parenting, very different. Now, one of the things I caution is it's important, especially when it's coming to parenting or certain things like work relationships, you kind of do have to align to, I guess, get to the end goal, parenting your child or completing a project, as in, there's got to be a way to agree to come to this conclusion, but you're going to disagree about it. So if you go into something knowing there's going to be disagreements, because I like shock people when I go, what do you mean? Like, hello, it's normal. Like if you all agreed, I even say to, I think I said this to somebody and somebody got really offended. I'm just going to admit this. I said something like, that's not normal. And I guess it was in a scenario where I'm like, did you never hear that it's not normal to not disagree? And to always have a perfect relationship. I was like, who does that? Like, who is that? And yes, people see me and my husband. Yes, hello, we disagree all the time. I mean, I'm sitting there going, I don't understand why you're doing that. But it's how you handle it and how you also respect the other person. So a friendship doesn't need to break up and it doesn't need to be damaged. Where the damage happens, if I think honestly, there is some ill will where you're just like, you know what? You don't change your mind. It's because you're stupid. I don't value you. I've seen that too. That'll damage, and that'll also damage you. When someone completely makes you feel like I can't respect your opinion, we can't be friends, then you reconsider the relationship. That's a different dimension. There's where you'll disagree. If you want to be heard, you have to hear the other person, but they are not there to change your mind, even though that's what it seems like it is, and you're not there to change their mind. You will stick to your beliefs. And then I really believe this because I see that there's no way we all align in all our relationships, but you can come to some common ground going, okay, I can see why you believe that because that's what happened to you. I see that. And so that goes a long way when someone says that to you. And then you just find a way of what you really enjoy about each other. But the damage can happen. And then you have to move on if there's a damage to a relationship. Maybe that's not meant to be. So this also means romantic relationships because I've seen that. But again, don't be conflict averse. I'm saying that to myself too, because I am too. Like I find myself going, oh, I don't think I'll say that. They're like, what? I go, yeah, it's the very thing I tell my clients to do. So I get challenged all the time because I'm the same way going, maybe I don't want to ruffle feathers, but that actually damages the relationship as well when you don't say something. In our field, we say silence is a form of communication. You've heard me say this. You are never not communicating. So I don't care if you're staying silent, you're also communicating a silence, right? Choosing not to say something because you don't care. Choosing not to say something because you don't want to ruffle feathers. You're still communicating something. So again, silence is not bad. There's times when you need to be silent, but I'm just giving an example. So that's my bottom line with that. Never be scared of conflict. Oh, by the way, I have a saying in my therapy sessions. Some of the best family sessions and um, workshops come out of disagreements. And again, as a facilitator, it's really important to temper the. I'm like, okay, what did you have to say? What did you have to say? That what comes out of it is sometimes people more connected than ever because they heard from each other, even though there's no solution. Half the time, there's no solution. I'll be like, oh, they realize that they're leaving, still disagreeing, but they feel closer. That's enough to help move forward in a relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, colleague, family. Okay. Next one. Hopefully this is helping. By the way, feel free to interact. I'm talking to myself. There's all these great questions. If you have questions, let me know. If you have more questions, what is this one? How can people learn to communicate their needs without feeling guilty or demanding? How many of you guys feel guilty or bad for communicating your needs? Put that, I'm going to turn it to you guys. How many of you say yes or no? Yes, I feel guilty communicating my needs. No. I had to think about this one because that's an interesting question and really depends on the culture. Guilt is such a big part of our culture. Also, women, working mothers, guilt is the common scenario. So there are certain things I say, you know what, that will be your go to. Like, I don't think I've ever said, oh, yeah, let me figure out a way that you'll never feel guilty. I actually think the guilt will always come and go, just like grief. But then you get better at like recognizing that guilt, going, you know what, I feel a little guilty, but no, I don't really specify what I want. And I really need this to happen for our relationship to be healthy, whatever that is, right? I know many people who tend to err on the guilt. Here's the other thing. Here's a flip side. If you always tend to feel guilty, I also need you to ask yourself, do I expect more from this person that I don't do for them? I mean, a relationship is always reciprocal. There is a such thing, I think if there's a question later, there's always a such thing as a one-way friendship. You've heard of those, right? Like just like a one-way crush in Korean, it's like I forget the term, but there that's why Korean I crack up when Koreans say, oh, it's a one-way crush. You know, you're crushing on somebody and they could care less about you. There's also a thing with friendships. So the guilt could be, are you feeling guilty because you ask a lot of this person, but you don't reciprocate? So that's a challenge to you. Maybe that's the guilt there. And that's a good part of guilt of going, yeah, I'm feeling guilty because I actually don't think I do the same thing, but I'm asking this person to do the same thing. So it's always multidimensional, just not like it's guilt or bad, good or bad. There's a reason for that guilt. The other thing is the guilt is you're not used to asking for help, or you don't ever specify your needs. You're so used to doing and giving, but after a while that comes at a cost to that person. Those actually tend to be the people that might reach out. The caretakers, the people who have given and never been able to specify their wants and needs or don't even know what they want. So I think that's really important to even ask yourself, what do I want? Why am I constantly unhappy in this family relationship? Why am I constantly unhappy in this friend relationship? What's going on? And I think that's really important to say it. And you know what? I learned this from my sister. She's actually really good. She's my younger sister. I think she wasn't as, I would say this to her. You didn't have such strict parenting like I did. I felt like my parents totally loosened up with her. And I think she doesn't disagree with that, but she's so good at saying, stop calling to my parents between Monday to Friday, like 9 to 6. Don't even bother calling. I was like, whoa. Oh, I should say that. Now I think that going, okay, they know I'm busy. I'm not going to answer. But my sister actually said that. So little things like that is a want. It's a desire. And she obviously said it in a way that maybe didn't come across good. I was a little like, wow. But she didn't feel guilty about it because I think it was just the burden she felt of taking care of my parents live very close to my sister too. So it's a very different relationship. So I think that's really important. I want to see what people are saying here. Depends on who the relation was with a parent, child, totally. So it's not easy to be this direct, even with maybe a colleague or an acquaintance. But I always say, go back to yourself first. Do you know how you can't be a good friend to somebody else if you don't know what being a good friend looks like? Like, I really believe when I see somebody being so good and kind to me. I'm like, I want to emulate that. So that's the kind of example I want you to take, like going, this person is so generous. I want to be that generous too. How do I be this generous to this person, but to other people? We can learn from each other, you know, and you can also learn the bad. This person is so toxic, or I don't like the way this person communicates with their child like this. I'm not going to speak like this to my child, you know? And so I think that's just the field I'm in. So I'm constantly doing that introspection, but I'm going to turn it on to you too. What do you want in a friend? Why do you feel guilty all the time? Maybe your parents, okay, let's also say this, parents, the older they get a little more needy. You know, that circle of life. It's like starting out as babies, they come back to babies. You've heard that term. It's true. So developmentally things happen, things change with them, aging, and it's important to see that. So maybe that guilt comes with you. You saw that your parents did a lot for you, but you can't do the same. You also need to temper that going, I would say that's not bad. You're a different person. You're maybe a second generation immigrant. That's very different thinking than a first generation. Think like that too. It's not one way. And so it's complicated. So I'll give you the typical thing when I'm doing a keynote or a panel, everyone will answer it this way. And I'll be like, I see that too, but I'll actually give two answers. That's actually why I end up speaking more than other people, because I feel like there's always a flip side. It's just the field I'm in. Now no is a complete sentence. I love it. Yeah. And people, I'm actually really good at saying no, actually. I've gotten that because I had to and more with, pressures externally and family. I just don't do it to my parents. I'll say it to other people, like I'm really good at, but I'm like, So I learned from my sister when I watched her. I was like, wow, you said Monday to Friday. Interesting. Yes, too often, unless it's with my parents, and then no, but I will qualify it with, it depends sometimes who's on the receiving end, right? And sometimes my friends spend a lot more on me than I can afford. Oh, okay, so that's a great example. Yeah, that's true. So I think you know what I say to people? This is me. I think my time, and this is me being quite honest, is very valuable. So for you, Mandy, what do you find very valuable that you can give as a friend? It doesn't have to be monetary. In fact, sometimes those aren't the best gifts. They can be very flippant, going, here you go. Like, here's a gift card, and no real thought goes into it. You know, people who are thoughtful, whether they made something for you, like these coasters, or, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be a product per se. It could be a service, let me help you do that. Or let me, there's so many things. I'm drawing a blank with examples, but don't ever underestimate the gift of time. We say that, and I believe that because I think time is my most precious thing that I tend to give. And so I think that's really important. And sometimes that goes so long and far, or even a simple text. I've given a simple text, and then next thing I know, someone goes, that text changed my life. And I'm not even exaggerating. I'd be like, really? I think I just hello. They're like, no, you checked on me on a very, very difficult time. Don't underestimate that. Also, I'll end this with timing of when the ask is, why the guilt is coming about. If you feel like you're being demanding, I need you to look at both ends. Is it their reaction? They're looking at you like, or they're telling you you're being demanding. Listen to what that is, but then also going, I don't think it's demanding. Like, I've actually had people saying, yeah, people tell me I'm demanding. I'm like, do you think you're demanding? I'm always, do you think you're demanding? And then the person's like, no, actually not really. Be able to answer your own questions, right? And so just turn it back to you. That's why it's hard when someone does that to me, like my spouse going, do you do this? I'm like, oh, thanks for doing that. But yes, it's always about growth. People I trust most often say no to me. That sounds hurtful. Did you mean to say that? Like, that's hurtful? I want to say yes. I actually spoke to a young lady who I met for coaching, and I think I gave her some reality. The people that you think will step up and help you may not. And that's, I don't want to sound cynical. That's me learning the fact. And then because they're close to me, I give them the benefit of the doubt in the sense of, maybe they think their friendship and they're giving their time helps, whether I ask for monetary things, which has happened, or I wanted some help on this, or a response. I really don't like, though, I will say this is hard, when no one responds. So that's one good thing I try to do. is I will respond unless I literally don't see something. I'm like, those ghostings of I'm like, why can't you respond? I think I thought about making a whole workshop as stop ghosting people. Because it means you can't, you're conflict averse. You can't confront the issue. You're avoiding something that's inevitably going to happen or blow up. So I would say try not to ghost people. If you get a question, give it a day or so, or even I've said this. I'm like, because I know people are responding to send me these emails, and I'll be like, I can't get back to you right now. Like, nudge me in a little bit, and I'll get the nudge. I'll be like, okay, it's been a week. I'm like, oh, thanks. But at least respond something. Remember, silence is a form of communication, good and bad. That's so true. Sometimes the people that really are supportive in difficult time are not the ones you'd expect. Yeah. There's not much to say to that except that's hard. Like I'm not going to pretend that's like something that we should accept. I will say that's also happened in our family, our closest, not family. I feel like family's been there, but the closest of friends or our community that we thought would, I don't know, be the ones advocating for certain things that we've been through did not. We got through it okay. And the important thing is not to harbor that resentment. You can be resentful, but not to harbor it. And then find other people that will be the ones to support you. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. You trust them the most. Okay. But then I went down the negative route, which can happen too, where the people you thought would be there for you, you know what I mean? And the saying, you find out who your true friends are in the times you need it most. I think that's true too. Yeah. And I think actually, okay, so let me move on with this because do I see a couple more? I thought there were a couple more that I think has to do with this that Kim didn't mean negatively, but we'll move on to the next question. What is the next question? I think it's something to do with, yes, this one. Okay. Oh, no, not this one. Okay. But how can someone maintain a sense of self while being in a committed relationship? I think the best way to answer that is before you get into the relationship. So if you're asking this in the relationship, I almost want to say it's too late. This is just my answer. Before you enter, I don't know, a relationship that's going to be a commitment, I think that's really important to know what you want, who you are, your sense of self. That I don't even want to say sense of self, your self-worth, self-value, self-identity. Know all that before you decide dating somebody. I'm not saying think too hard, because I'd say to someone who's 20, that's a whole different ballgame than someone who's 40. But if you are asking, how do I stay my true self in a relationship? I feel like by the time you get to that and you feel good about who you are or where you are, or you're excited to date this person, then that question is answered by itself. Does that make sense? I don't think you should be searching in a committed relationship going, how do I stay true to myself? No, I think it should come naturally. Like also dating, because I think I've seen some people in their 30s who are committed but dating. I'm like, wow, this is so stressful. Like I'll say this, I go, your dating relationship is really stressful. It's not like they want to hear that, but I'm like, it is, because they're trying to figure out self and then partner. And I'm like, all of that should have been done, or you should know going in, I'm going to be committed and I'm not going to be wishy-washy. I know this is who I am. This is who this person is. When you start questioning, am I not being myself? Then perhaps you question the relationship. That's just my view, where I'm like, if you have to question, am I like, I lost my sense of me? I think you might go, maybe I need a little step back from the relationship, because yes, romantic relationships can blur the lines and then you kind of mesh to somebody else. I think it's important to be cohesive and collaborative, but you have compromise, right? You have your own, who you are and your values, and you share them with your partner. And they may have similar ones, which I see a lot of very healthy relationships, they very similar ones, but then they also like the way that you do some things. That makes sense. So everything has to be parallel, but you questioning whether or not you are, having your sense of who you are or your identity, then I question the relationship. And that's usually when people come see me going, who am I in this relationship? And then we start questioning the actual context. Does that make sense? So look at the greater context. And I really mean this. I'd rather, and I've said this, I'd rather you be single. I'd rather you be divorced. I'd rather you be separated to figure your own self out. Or you can't be the person you want to be in the relationship if you don't know what you want. I mean, if I ask you, what do you want in a relationship? Like, what are some of the things that you really like in a guy? Be able to answer it. Because I remember people are like, oh, Pak Seo-jun, or, I'm like, that's funny. But like, and then people actually say things like, I want someone who's warm and kind. And I'm like, oh. And then I heard some things like really good to their friends. These are the things you got to be able to list. That's part of your identity too, of what you want, the things you value, right? Things that make you feel good. I agree. So Leslie saying the older you get, the more you do know. Yes, I know young people don't want to hear this, but there's with age there comes wisdom. You've been through it. You've seen some bad relationships, good relationships, old friends, new friends. And so I think that is why it's important that one of the values of the aging population is wisdom. FYI, this is all part of the psychological model, the circle of life. They value that they can offer that wisdom. And the older we get, we offer that, whether you're a parent, friend or mentor, leader, employee, all that stuff. And so that's true. But I also think before you enter a relationship or when you think about committing to somebody after even dating, you question that who am I thing. I'm a little nervous of your relationship. It should actually accentuate you. You actually be like, oh my gosh, this person gives me the power to even do more. And I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I was on the fence. And then I started dating this person and she was like, do this. And then that's great. So that's what I would say happens, right? Okay. What's next? I love the engagement. This came out right. How can one build emotional resilience after a breakup or the end of a friendship? First of all, I think it's very hard. I think I've seen it. It's heartbreaking. I think that's a fear of a parent seeing their child go through heartbreak, right? A breakup. Nothing's more devastating going through a breakup or the end of a friendship, but it does happen. And in fact, when I'm thinking back to friendships that have ended, by the way, you can outgrow friendships. You can outgrow relationships, right? That kind of sounds flippant, but I think perhaps when 30 years ago, it was a different scenario. And then, I don't know, you have shifted into, example, working, and now you're overseas. I'm thinking myself, does that still align? But you can't change like what's happened in your life, right? So you hope that your partner could go with you, like go on this trajectory. And that would be the ideal scenario. But if someone kind of holds you back going, yeah, I don't want you to do that. That doesn't make sense. That would be an example of where I think the end of a friendship or a relationship could be that question of what's going to happen. How you build that resilience, I don't think there's one way of doing it. I actually think those people who are in healthy relationships now will tell you, even after a difficult divorce, they're still building that resilience in the current relationship they're in, because there's a lot of hurt. There's grief, right? And so I don't think there's one way to answer it. And I also want to say this, each difficult relationship can be a tremendous opportunity for you to make that part of your narrative. I hear this a lot with people who are writers and stuff, right? So they have gone through this tragic, I want to say even abusive relationships, and it's a difficult time to relive. So it's not like I'm trying to have them relive that, or they're not trying to relive it, but they've turned that into how they are today and how they approach relationships, or how they choose not to approach relationships. So I think that's really important. The very difficult times of you rebuilding, reworking, recreating that art. We always say this art of trauma or brokenness can be mended, and how you mend it and rework that piece of art can be up to you. So this is what we mean by, in my line of work, of reframing your narrative. That difficult divorce, affair, I'm bringing up the most horrible situations, abuse, can be reframed, but you need to do it. So you build your resilience by rewriting that part of your story. Don't let someone else do it for you. People are like, oh, so that's what happened to you? That's pretty bad. How do you get over that? You see that all the time, right? People who don't mean to be condescending and hurtful, but they are, then you will have your own narrative to say, oh, that was the most terrible time ever. And then you kind of rewrite your story and share it. And I see that. And at the end of the day, you are the expert of your story, and it's always unfolding. Chapter 58 or chapter 335 is up to how you're writing it. And I think for a long time, my best example is it wasn't even a breakup with a relationship, a breakup of a career. Like I really don't share a lot, but I do get emotional when I talk about how I shifted from journalism. It was a lifelong dream for me to be a journalist. That's why I'm so fond of the field of journalism, but it just didn't work out. It's kind of like I broke up with that actually. I chose to do it. This is the best way for me to talk about this. But that resilience I built for many years, I was like, oh, what do I want to do? I loved being a stay-at-home mom, but I knew I wanted to do more. So I was like, I love this. I'm at home for now, but I'm doing grad school, but in business school, I was like, this is not doing it for me. So I had to reframe my narrative. And now I use that career narrative as part of my most resilient inspiration for others. And actually, that is the feedback I get. They go, thanks for sharing the fact that you were like all over the place, and I remember colleagues even make fun of me going, yeah, so you were here for like a year. You know how people do that? And I talk about this a lot. It made me feel like, oh yeah, what was wrong? Why couldn't I be definitive? Why couldn't I be this journalist and be on the Today Show or CNN? This is what I dreamed of when I was young, or even 24. But then I pivoted because it didn't make sense anymore for me, right? So I broke up with it. My husband went through that with a friend from grad school. I told him to look at it as ebb and flow through life. Some people come into our lives for a reason, when their purpose is filled with the wheel, moves them on. Yeah. You also can move on. One-sided friendships, I'll end with this. One-sided friendships are terrible if you're the one giving, and you're like, why do I keep trying? I even see this in my own family, people going, why do I keep trying with this family member? You can't necessarily like break off your family in that sense. I mean, they're still a part of your family, but you could definitely have that cutoff, right? Going, you know what? I'm not going to try, and I'll just let it be. Like I think people have said we're close because I work hard at it. I've heard that. That's hurtful after a while when you're the one really working hard to be close to that person, but it's not reciprocated. Draining, it will be hurtful. Then to protect you, I would say, yeah, maybe take a little bit of a break. That's hurtful. Maybe. And then I've heard some people going, but we might not be friends. And I go, then maybe you're not friends. And there's so many wonderful people. I want to say now in my life, because I'm having these tours, I've met new friends. So you can always make new friends. It's not easy, but you can, especially through a community like this, and keep building on those friends. And I know some people who didn't think that they would get along. Oh, I love these stories. And then they're like besties, right? Or people who, and the whole, friends to lovers and K-dramas, it's a popular trope. Why? Because you see it happening, and that can happen in real life where you don't like somebody at first and then you fall in love. Actually, that happened with me and my husband. I did not like him. That's a whole nother story. But didn't like him until maybe a couple years down the road, or like maybe a couple instances down the road. It's not like I disliked him, but not attractive to me. So he knows this. I'd be like, what is your problem? In fact, a funny story. When I met him, he was like, you're reminding me of Ross from Friends. Do you guys watch Friends? When Ross from Friends is like, hi, when he's all depressing. That's how my husband said hi to me. And I was like, I was so excited to meet him. I heard great things. And I was like, oh, I heard so much about you. I said this. And I was 19. I was all bubbly 19. And then I was so excited. And he's like, hi. And I was like, and my first initial thought was, okay, why do people say such great things? I kid you not. So that took a whole nother year and a half for me to be like, oh, you're funny. So I'm sharing this. That's a little side note. But I don't even know if I answered this question. But yes, resilience is a constant thing. And if you're doing a one-sided thing, or if you're broken up, it's not still easy, even if you are in a healthy relationship. I think I'm going to answer that. I've seen healthy marriages, but part of your past is dealing with what happened before and rewriting it, going, now I'm doing this, but don't try to completely erase. If you do that, actually, it does the opposite impact. Meaning, if you try to go, this was such an abusive situation, it's going to be erased. No, just be like, this was an abusive situation. I chose to rewrote it. Here's my story. And now this is what I'm looking for, empowering. And that's a part of anxiety. You got to face it. What is it? Swim the lap. You could swim a lap and you build some muscles, but then you could walk out of the pool and go on the other side and you're like, hey, I did it. But you feel good when you swim that lap and build that muscle. So muscle training is part of therapy as well. Your brain muscle, your resilient muscle, your bicep muscle, same thing as building that with your own strength, daily mental health hygiene. And then I better go to the next one because I answered that way too long. K-pop is a huge source of conflict. Oh, why? Because he thinks it's he doesn't like it. I'm very curious about that. I understand maybe he has a very different taste, but or maybe he doesn't understand if you're fangirling. I mean, that could be a lot of. You could even ask. Just make sure you know why your husband doesn't like it. You know how sometimes you don't know why someone doesn't like something. I'm always going to turn it back to you. Why don't they like it? What have they told you about why they don't like you watching K-dramas? What's their reasoning? Because once you know it, then you can respond going, yeah, but you watch I don't know, what's something football. Don't understand football. But, but I don't say, why do you watch football? No, you just go, oh, you like football, right? So it's just different how we handle things in our community. Yes, left my community friends after 30 years, but working on new friends in my new state. It can happen, not easy, but there are ways to make it happen. And it doesn't have to be a whole community because it is hard after 30 years. Even the community that I have here, because I travel so much, it's slowly changing. And now we're down to a select few friends. At first, I was like, oh, my tennis community is gone because I don't play tennis anymore. I had tons of tennis friends. But I have come to my own terms of like, you know what, though? I'll just build on the quality connections I have with these people. By the way, that's really important. Connection. You could have 50 friends. Actually, let me answer that next question. I think it's the next question because I remember thinking I'm going to share this story. Yes, this is the last question. And I will share this scenario. How does one navigate feelings of loneliness even when surrounded by people? I love this question. No one's immune from loneliness. No one, including myself. Like you will feel lonely in the midst of people. And then you just need to figure out why. Like, hey, I feel so lonely, but all these people are congratulating me, or this is so great, right? Or you're in a family holiday gathering and it's so festive, but then you're feeling lonely. What I would answer is, how connected are you in these relationships? The key to happiness on this Harvard happiness study I always like to share is based on not your community. It's not like, oh, the key to happiness is your community. The key to happiness is the quality of your community. So K-drama community, not all of it's good. There's some people who are like, why are you watching? I see this on my page. Why are you watching that? That's stupid. I'd be like, I don't like that comment, right? Because we all have different tastes. But even in our own K-drama community, how connected are you with certain people? Connection, chung, belongingness is what's going to help you not feel lonely. You will still have, maybe you have 50 people around you, but you're really close to 2 or 3. That is good. You don't have to be close to everybody. As a true extrovert, no way am I close to everybody. In fact, there are many times extroverts will tell you that they feel very lonely because there are hundreds of people around them and they're talking to everybody. But that doesn't mean they're quality conversations. So I've gotten better in the last 10 years to be like, I just went to a party and spoke to every single person, but can't remember anything. And so I feel very disconnected, hence lonely. And then, this is where I'll share the great things about my husband being an introvert. He's like, I'm going to sit in a corner. He'll talk to one person for like an hour and a half and know their whole life story. I just think that's amazing. So I'm getting better that way. But sometimes I'm like, but did you meet these people that said hello to you? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. But there's always that. You have to work at it. Friendships people come into your lives, but you have to work at being a good friend. Vice versa. You would want someone to check up on you and you check up on them. And let me read some of these. Oh, I know. I love, the tour. I know people always feel FOMO, but do you know I shared this on my birthday inspiration. What inspires me more is not the fact that I met you guys on tour. I don't know I think I said seeing your joy, but also that you guys all keep in touch. In fact, that FOMO is getting less and less. Initially, the FOMO was real when I was like, oh, I can't go to Chicago. I can't go to New York. But I'm okay with that because I still feel connected and it's all about the quality. But you guys are building those relationships. That's really important. And you weren't looking for new friends. I love it. Actually, they come in untimely places and unlikely places, right? Oh, sorry. He thinks it's a waste of time and money. Maybe you get a little deeper and invite him and share a little bit of why you're passionate about it. You know what? You can give a scenario. I always say this. Is there a scenario where you could flip that on him going, well, you spend money on this and this is not for me to fight with you. Just me to explain, why do you like spending, I think golf, rounds of golf, right? Explain that. You just have your own rebuttal. We have a nice K-Drama community, Soul Sisters and Traveling Turtle Sisters, thanks to K-Drama and Jeannie. I will say, I always like to be neutral and say, not every community is perfect, but when I brag about our community, I do say so. And I want to tell you now, when you're on my tour, the tour guide, tour manager, people who interact with you guys give me the best compliments. I always turn it on to the community going, well, I just think the community, I'm just lucky. This community is amazing. If you do feel lonely, ask yourself, how connected am I with my family? Actually, I feel like a lot of people tend to feel lonely even in their own marriage. Then I need you to reconnect. Whatever that is, work hard at it. All of what I'm saying, I think it was Linda that said, it's so hard though. Yes, it is. Hello. There are times I'm like, this is so hard. But I mean, actually, I don't say my work is hard. Actually, I think it's my work. So it's actually easier to me. What's hard is real life parenting, real life marriaging, real life relationships, real life, my sister, my parent, right? All of it, I'm sitting there going, oh my, right. It takes a lot of work, but when you start feeling disconnected and lonely, it's sad. Like loneliness is like, you do know loneliness, that term, loneliness kills. It's a great TEDx talk. Actually, no, not TEDx, TED Talk. Sorry. He did a TED Talk on how loneliness kills. He literally meant physically too. What it does to the body. I love it. And I tend to quote that TED Talk, because I think that's so true. So just like you take care of your physical well-being, like washing our hair, putting on makeup, getting new clothes, your emotional, social well-being really is utmost important. I think even now in this day and age with social media, do you know there's more people lonely than ever, and we have social media? You guys know this, right? So we joke that our diagnostic manual is going to add social media disorder because people are so disconnected. They see a caricature of somebody that may not be real and think that there's something wrong with them. And then that makes them feel lonely and they have no friends when they actually have people around them. So social media, take it with a grain of salt. I love it. That's how we all met. You met me on Instagram. That's our tour catchphrase. Hey, I'm going on a tour with somebody I met on Instagram. I'll never underestimate that. But I also know it's social media and you need real in-person, purposeful, intentional driven connections like Soul Sisters and talking about what K-drama you're watching and then having these side conversations of, oh, you just mentioned something in the chat. What did you mean? I'm not talking about you asking somebody, when someone shares with you, you feel just as good as when you share with them. It is 100% equal. In fact, I tell people you sharing is really important. Don't just be the one that shares, people share with you like a therapist, people sharing with me. I also have to share to feel close. So please, that's why I have you guys share. It's so important when you share your story, your struggles, your joys. Anyways, I always say I'm going to have a short K talk, but this is the last question, right? Because I'm like, I just keep going. There's so much to share. His opinion when he passes judgment. I see. We could talk offline. You can DM me. There are going to be people. There's many people opinion. I get opinions all the time in direct messages too about certain K-dramas. I also just temper them, going, well, this is how I feel about it. This is how you feel about it. You're not going to change his mind. Let me be clear, but you're going to at least share why it's so important to you, and maybe you emphasize that a little bit more. Don't change his mind. Just be like, this is really important to me as your wife, that I really have this. It really makes me happy. And I've met some good friends and things like that. There's one thing amazing about social media nowadays. You can keep up with somebody or make new relationships before meeting in person, like our tour group accounts. Oh my gosh, are you on one of our tours? I'm so sorry. Which tour are you on? I got to know. Tell me which one. Yes. I'm not even on those tour chat threads yet. I'm going to be when I say hello to you when we're on tour, but that's exactly why we do it. We want you to feel even more connected before you get on tour. Plus, people are flying in, and maybe you could fly in together and meet up. I know some of you guys did that, which I love. And then you have some people to go, someone to hang out with before the tour, and then during the tour. That's all intentional on our part. And I share this because I need you to know that. That is why we do it, to emphasize the relationship warmth. We're not trying to make you guys be friends. That's not our intention. Our purpose is to connect and then hope things happen naturally, if that makes sense. Okay. I think the only thing is, until next time, I'm going to end with We are going to do a tour show. I think that's the best thing. Everyone's welcome, even if you haven't been on tour. But I'm going to invite tour folks to join me on a call, kind of like we did with our K-drama deep dives, but we're just going to catch up. So it's going to be like this, like a Zoom call, but we're going to do it on YouTube live. So I will share a little bit more details and see how the comfort level is and who wants to do that. But we'll also talk about K-dramas. But I want it to be more than just, I want us to be catching up, and I wanted to do in a way where cross tours people can meet. I have the beauty of getting to know all you guys. I do want you guys to all know each other, because who knows? You know, Carrie and other people. I'm saying Carrie because she's in Hawaii. There's other tour people in Hawaii that you should meet that live in your area. That is my other dream. How I can, by the way, this new website, hopefully we'll do some of that, connecting to you people who are in Boston, to Chicago, to Detroit, to North Carolina, to overseas, UK. That's my wish. All right, guys. The next time you see me, I will be in Chile, Seoul, and hopefully be able to keep you posted with my conference speaking and all that stuff and tour stuff. Oh, April 1. Okay, yay. I'll see you soon. Your itinerary comes out soon. That's why I didn't want to reveal too much. And then the Jeju itinerary comes out in a couple of weeks. I'm really excited. By the way, only thing I'm sensitive to is the itinerary. I'll be like, I hope you guys like it. Because just ask anybody on my team. I'll be like, I think we need to switch this because this just came out. This K-drama. No, I kid you not. My tour guides are awesome. They're like, okay, I agree with you. You're right. This is a popular K-drama. I'm like, we are seeing the site. What can we take out? And then I will say most of the time we don't take things out. We actually squeeze it in there. But I'm trying to get better with doing 15,000 steps a day. Like Jeju is like 10K a day. Who's on Jeju? I think Annie's on Jeju. It's less, except when we do the trail around the Welcome to Samdaeli trail. We're going to try to do that, but we'll do half the trail. So again, you're working out. It's your physical well-being. Thank you guys. Yes, Minneapolis, Zoe and Kim and Nancy and Sophie, Linda, Carrie, Leslie, Roxanne, Mandy, DM me about that. We can talk more about K-pop. You guys, you'll see me in Korea, and please keep in touch. Love you all. Thank you so much.